Welcome to Feel Good Friday. It is Friday, and I want you to feel good. This week, we've had a number of discussions, and I've had a number of personal messages. It's always okay to share unless you're shy or something of that nature. But we're getting to the size now. I think you'd be surprised how many people have spent some time with me or worked through some of the things. And I want to stress today we're talking about back and spine issues because we've had a number of concerns this week or new folks starting out that have had a bad experience. And part of the reason this page, of course, exists is if you have had a bad experience, if you're afraid to try it in the first place, many of you are dealing with conditions and symptoms with those conditions that are not like other regular people. So when you're dealing with pain, fatigue, lumps, bumps, a lot of the things that just come with the conditions this group handles, you can't fit that regular exercise or therapy box. So when you're starting on a vibration machine, the number one thing I kind of hear is, well, that's what the manufacturer recommended and that's what the manual said. But if normal exercise routines worked for your body, you probably wouldn't be looking at vibration machines in the first place. So I don't want anyone ever thinking I'm contradicting what's been outlined by any manufacturers. Just like exercise, you got to start somewhere, and where you progress, what you enjoy, what you don't like, what you do like, is going to be different for everybody. These machines are simply an environment that happens to be a lot less impact than even walking across the floor. And for many of you, they have a huge capacity for lymph and circulation. So that's a big thing that's important to a lot of people. Hello, welcome, Kim. I'm just doing a wind up here, and I'm going to get into a bit of a back routine. It's been some time. When you're dealing with a deficiency, a back issue, bulging discs, fused discs, maybe just like your lipedema or Derkham's, maybe, or lymphedema, maybe you don't have a diagnosis. You just know that your back hurts and there's something wrong with it. So the back, I kind of break into three regions. You've got that, hip and tailbone region, the mid, the core section, and then you've got the neck and the shoulders. And for the women in the group, we tend to carry a lot of tension and stress in our neck and our shoulders. Our upper body tends to be weaker than our male counterparts. We can do squats all day long. Our power is in our legs, but we tend to carry deficiencies in the neck and the shoulders regardless, from the bra, the purse, sitting at that desk, stressing out. So when you start incorporating vibrational tools, the body has a tendency to guard and protect. And if you're dealing with a deficiency in the upper part of the back, hello, Kim. In the neck, you've had a car accident, you've slept bad for 30 years. There's lots of reasons you can have actual disc issues in your neck. Maybe you have frozen shoulder. Everything plays a relationship. So sometimes it's never some big accident or sporting event that put you in your situation. Sometimes it's just repetitive things that we do, or things we've been doing incorrectly for years, or it's just, crossing your legs gives you varicose veins. There's all these things we know we're not supposed to do, but we do without even realizing. So outside of your lymph and your circulation, which is our foundational reason for using machines, there's a lot of ways you can get neck, spine, and in general, your back, some relief. Today, we're going to take things a little bit slow and progress upwards. If you are dealing with a current issue with your back, usually you're going to be recommended to not use a vibration machine. If your doctor, your therapist, your family doesn't know anything about vibration machines, usually when you're dealing with spinal concerns, vibration and spine problems don't tend to be fluid in the same sentence. There's this whole world of occupational health out there, and occupational health is those work safety guidelines. There's guidelines that have been established around the size of a paper towel dispenser. So vibration is another thing that happens to occur in workplaces, in trucks, you get vibrations sitting next to a big photocopier all day just from the hum. So there's all these things that we know in occupational health, and they are regulated to death. So the biggest pat on the back out there to all our occupational therapists, because man, there's a lot of things you got to be current on. Vibration machines, vibration guns, some of the wellness tools out there, they don't really have guidelines. They don't have a whole industry behind them, nor do treadmills or ellipticals for that matter. They kind of fall into wellness, fitness, kind of depends what you're using them for. But what happens with vibration machines in particular is, the average therapist or doctor sometimes thinks, occupational health, occupational exposure. And there are limits of occupational exposure that can be detrimental to your back and your spine. A lot of our truck drivers, a lot of guys driving heavy equipment where they're just seated for years and hours a day in that position, yeah, it's going to cause some harm. So a lot of my hubbies out there, why would I stand on something that vibrates to fix what vibration broke? That's as far as the trade of thought goes, and I get that. But it's understanding there's a different way, and there's a different understanding in the vibration itself. So when you're working with a truck, a tamper, some of these things are like 200, 300, 400 hertz, and you're doing it for 8 to 12 hours a day. It's sometimes it's the exposure thing. We're using this maybe 30 minutes a day. I know some of you are more, but I mean, you're certainly not using it 8 hours a day. And you're certainly not sitting on it the whole time. So there's reasons you'd want to sit on it to relieve tension, get some circulation going, get rid of constipation, but it's not going to be the same type of movement. We're talking 12 hertz as a frequency compared to that 1-200 that the jackhammer's given you. So there's a very different understanding. And the other thing, I have to cover this because this came up, but not in a post this week, is G-force is going around. There's companies out there right now, and I worked for one of them. There's a lot of machines out there capable of very high G-force thresholds. That's a whole other Facebook page and a whole lot of other time. It's, what these machines do is they essentially superficially increase our exposure to gravity. Gravity is a really important part of our health, and when we don't get enough exposure, we're not bearing our weight enough, we digress, our bones deteriorate, our vascular systems get poor. So gravity is a good thing. But when you're in something like a race car, G-forces, you can feel it when you hit the gas on the car. There are limits as far as what human exposure can sustain. What has been done and proven, I think, is like 40 G's of exposure has been, Dr. Clapp or John Clapp or something survived some tests, but 8, 9, 10 G's is usually what you'll see out there. And what happens in something like a race car is also very different than a vibration machine. When you're in a race car, it's not vibration. It is G-force, it is acceleration, which are vibration machine terms, but there's a direction that's different. When you're on a vibration machine, you're moving in multiple directions depending on what's happening. So any G-force movement is a split second later changed. On a race car, when you're forced into that seat or you're in a rocket ship shooting out to Earth, direction is coming at you in one direction and it's compressing, and that's what our body can only sustain. So there are some people out there that, Debbie's putting babies on vibration machines at like 15 G's. Yeah, it's a completely different thing. Until you understand the concept, I don't want to have a conversation about it. There's no simple math formula I can give you to plunk in. There's a couple of apps. The average machine we are using on this page is capable of probably 6 G's. That means top setting with your feet completely on the outside edges. I don't coach that way. There's a variety of forces that are being exposed to your body. You just stick to where I tell you to put the feet and what frequency. There's a few pieces of math before we get into the G-force equation. For those of you dealing with more capable machines, some of the medical device versions where we do have those higher thresholds, you simply have a higher frequency range. So the more frequency range you have, the more G-force you have. But you're not going to get a machine with 15, 20 G's of force, commercial grade, in something that weighs 20 pounds. So there's no perfect machine for every situation, budget, or household. It really depends what you're using it for. So I've rambled enough. It's now 1:15. Kim's sitting there. Come on, Beulah, get with the workout. So backs. For those of you joining me for the first time, I'm going to cover 2 very simple basics with your back. If you are able to bear weight, walk around, you're doing your day-to-day tasks, you're probably okay standing on a vibration machine. But I can't give you a black and white list for every single person, every back spine condition. So generally speaking, if you've had major surgery, fusions, rods, things like that, you want to make sure that you've healed and recovered and you're able to resume your day-to-day activities. For some people, that might be sooner than later, depending on the surgery, how quickly you heal. So, you know, when you can use your machine in the same veracity that you may have been before the surgery, fitness, you know, it depends on when your doctor okays you to presume day-to-day stuff. But there are always ways you can modify. So this is not weight bearing. We're sitting on a chair, we've got our feet on the machine. For those of you that use a machine regularly and your doctor says, no, you can't use it, you freak out because you start feeling poopy and you start swelling. There's reasons you want to use it, but you want to make sure you're safe. So the very best way to start, today we're talking about back issues. So I'm assuming everybody is broken at this point. With our backs, they're not even in the equation. So we're just going to get our machine going. I prefer in oscillating mode, which moves like this. Even in a seated position, depending on how close or how wide your foot position is, you're going to change the intensity. Refer to that as amplitude or displacement. So regardless of what frequency or speed that you are using, the distance between your feet drives the intensity. It is not about standing as wide as humanly possible. When you buy these machines, when you listen to your friends using them, there's this tendency to stand as wide as possible. You do feel more, you feel more shaken, it feels like more is going on. But if you're dealing with a back issue and you can't walk around the block without paying for it, you have no business taking on the most intensity. Reduce your feet and start with your feet close and build from there. The really slow speeds are kind of choppy and wobbly, destabilizing. When you're dealing with back and spine issues, we don't want a whole lot of destabilization going on. That's when we can hurt ourselves and jar things and how our body compensates. So bring your machine up to whatever your mid speed is. So if you're working with a machine with 60 speeds, be in the 20 to 30 range. If you're working with a high frequency machine, I want you in the 12 to 14 hertz range. So I'm going to leave mine a little slower so you can see what I'm doing here a bit better on camera. But if you're scared, if you've had a bad experience in the past, I don't even want you standing on it. We've had a couple of those this week. I want you to just kind of let your body get used to or assimilated to this environment again. And just do it seated in a chair, something that's got you at a good 90-degree angle, depending on your height. And for our neck and our shoulders, because you're supposed to be doing action there and getting the lymph moving anyways, you can do two options. You can add your hands, locking our arms to your knees, just to kind of get a feel for it. If it feels okay, but it still feels a little too much, maybe you're sensitive in the neck and the head, bring your feet closer. Make that modification so you feel comfortable, okay? If it feels good, you're ready for a little bit more. Sometimes you tend to be carrying a little bit more mass or swelling in the upper body. How your body absorbs the movement is going to be different based on body type. So if you could take a little more and it feels okay, I'm not here to say stop at this number or don't go past that number. Everybody's going to find their own level of comfort, but I want you to experiment. And if you want to go faster, bring your feet close, go faster, see how it feels, then widen up and see what feels good. So the next progression would be putting the elbows on the knees. And you'll feel it kind of in the top of the shoulders, the shoulder blades, how far you lean in or back, and depending on your girth and the size of your chest. But you might find this one is tolerable as well. Doesn't really hit you in the neck too much. I don't want you just dropping your head. Hold a good position, but be relaxed. Don't fight. Don't resist it. Naturally, as women, as I said, we carry that tension, that stress in the neck and the shoulders. And if you're just using a machine for the first time or you've had a bad experience, we tend to guard and protect. And when we fight the machine and we resist it, our muscles are rigid and it's much more choppy than just being relaxed and letting things slap around, if you will. Okay? If you are unable to or you are afraid to stand at this point, it is fine to just continue. You're still going to get lots of good lymph on the lower legs. Start getting used to how this feels. If you have a low back deficiency in the hips, the tailbone region, or even the mid back, sometimes you're not feeling it in that region. So you might be still a little bit afraid, but I want to teach you how to stand without being afraid. So I want you to bring your feet dead center or as close as your thighs will allow. If you have a machine with handles, you still want it long term. We want to focus on building strength. So hang on to the handles, but don't, pull yourself over. Try and use your legs, the strength of your legs. And I want you to stand up, but keep a pretty good bend in your knees. You're not going to feel it much past the love handles. If the taller you stand, the more you're going to feel it go up the skeletal structure. If those legs are locked, you'll feel it slightly in the head. It is not harmful. It's not damaging to the head, but it does take some getting used to. If you're prone to vertigo, those type of things, it might not be for you. Keep those knees slightly bent. Now, the first variation, if you're dealing with neck and spine issues, I want to get some movement. The biggest three things short term that we want to focus on is improving your flexibility, improving your stability, and of course, managing any pain that you may have. So, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, you're feeling better. You're feeling good. If you're feeling okay, sit back down and just make sure that you're feeling okay. A minute or two on this machine when you've been inactive and you're dealing with a bad back, might be enough. If you're feeling okay, it's kind of like a sit to stand exercise. Come back up and try another, 30 seconds to a minute. What the biggest mistake I think when we first start out with any type of deficiency, it's not a right or wrong, it's just inexperience. We go for too long, or we stand too wide, or we do a combination of the two. And you feel good, your lymph's moving, it warms you up a little bit, so it's easy to overdo this, even though it doesn't seem like you're doing a whole lot. So the next variation, I want your legs almost completely straight, and I want you at the hips to unhinge, and just let those arms hang. And you should feel it primarily now in the butt cheeks, the tailbone, and if you're able, I'd like you to add a little variation, which is a pelvic tilt. My feet are still only about an inch apart, okay? Bring the bum forward, arch those shoulders up like a cat, and then come back down and go the other way. So push the bum back, arch the spine, any combination. To start working on flexibility, it's kind of an easy thing. Just standing on this, you're going to loosen up, you're going to get better flexibility, but keep it simple. If you're feeling stable and you're doing these types of things already, sometimes it feels natural to go a little lower as long as you feel stable. If you're scared and you want to try something like that, you can use your stool just as a guide. Okay, my feet are again a little bit closer. Sometimes you just need a little something to hang on to give you that confidence. It just feels scary standing on the machine without something to hang on to. If you're enjoying this, depending on your height, you can keep going. You can stretch. I want you to learn to experiment responsibly. And if you're feeling pooped out, you got a stool here. Just take a sit down. And you got a lot of blood flowing, a lot of lymph, a lot of detoxification starting as well. So I just want you guys, when you're dealing with a back issue, the biggest thing is that fear. Or if you've had a poor experience, this is the last thing you want to think about. And we've had enough people here that have had that experience and turned it around. But please just don't take on more than you're ready for. So the biggest point is those feet, getting them close together. And, perhaps if you're just resuming or starting out for the first time, maybe do a couple, maybe 3 sessions if you're home and you'd like, but keep them to under 5 minutes, even under 3 minutes if you've had recent surgery. If you have range of motion and your mobility allows you to, another really simple, super lazy way to get into the whole area is just sitting on it. Now, many of us are doing this for skin tone or, just massaging the hamstrings, fluids. There's lots of reasons people will sit on it, urinary incontinence, constipation, but it's also a really nice way that the vibration gets much more direct to the hips and the low back. I think you'll find regardless of the surface of your machine, you rarely need a mat when you're sitting on it. We usually have enough yoga mats built in. So I tend to sit directly on the plate. If you do have lumps or bumps or tailbones coming in contact, you might want to pad your machine up or put a towel down. So I'm leaning forward just slightly to get the vibration out of my neck and my shoulders. What I'd like you to try doing, similar to what we did standing up, is I want you to just play with the position of your spine. Oh, yep, I hit a button. So I want you to just arch your back up like a cat. 2-3 seconds, release. Just try getting some movements going. The biggest thing is any of you that have had surgery, been dealing with these chronic inflammations, you got scar tissue, all kinds of things in there. So let's get some blood, some lymph, and some flexibility going. So another variation for those of you that have done some of these positions with me is adding a little bit more upper body while you're doing your back and your neck, and you're going to feel a bit more in the neck and the shoulders. We're going to add our hands. So we're going to take one hand at a time, tuck it underneath, just underneath the butt bone, the butt cheek. And the palms are down. And you take the other one. And because our arms are longer than our torsos in most cases, your elbows will be naturally bent. And now you feel a little bit more in the upper body. If you sit back, you decide what angle is comfortable. It's not harmful for your head. Just don't fight it. And try, if it's too wobbly on the head, tilt it just slightly forward. Try and get used to getting it at least into your neck if you can. If you want a little bit more towards a different direction, play with the positions of your hands. You know, there's all kinds of ways depending on how you position your arms on the machine. And if you apply a little bit of pressure, you're going to feel it's going to intensify and get a bit stronger. So that's just a variation for those of you that are able to get down on the ground. Since you're already down here on the ground, the last one that I will show you is going to require a mat. Okay, this is just a yoga mat that I've cleverly cut out to fit the buttons. Let me get this going again. And a cat-cow on the floor on these machines can be done one of two ways. It's kind of a universal position where you can do it with upper body on the machine, or you can put the lower body portion. Same with a push-up, any of those types of positions. So for a cat-cow, we kind of did a standing, okay? To get a little bit more upper body towards the neck and the spine, the biggest trick if you're going to try some upper body is keep the body weight out of the equation. You know, just like when we're standing, bring your hands closer to the center to reduce the amount of movement, okay? I would prefer closer hands and feet and a faster speed than I'm starting slow and wide. That's when you're going to get into choppy uncomfortableness. So bring your hands closer together and position your hands in line with your shoulders. So your head is just past. You'll feel if your head is over your hands, you'll feel more shake in the head. You want to push just slightly forward to the neck and the shoulders and do what you normally do sitting in a chair. Do you roll your shoulders? Do you turn your head from side to side? It's not terribly complicated. It's just vibration that's helping whatever you normally do. So the other way we can do this one so that's more you're going to feel from here up. From here down, you might want a little block or a riser if you've got short little arms or if your machine is very high. But we'll get on it with the knees. You want a little bit of padding for your kneecaps on the machine. And same thing, bring your knees a little bit closer. You're going to feel when you're standing on the machine, your hips are moving in this direction, whereas when you're in this position, they move them the other way. So, you know, you got to experiment and sort of figure out what move works best for you. This one's also awesome for constipation. You might want to turn into a little stretch. Really depends on you and your range of motion. Please don't get yourself into any positions that you're not going to be able to get out of without any help today. This one you could continue and do like a cat-cow, arching up, other way. You can shift your hips from side to side, back, forth. They're all just variations on a basic theme. And again, two ways, okay? So you can do your cat-cow this way, okay? And if your deficiency is the whole darn back, well, maybe you will have to do a couple of positions differently. The big thing I try to teach you in a lot of these positions is, you know, the more, if you are dealing with fatigue, if you're dealing with a lot of pain, you know, sometimes a minute or two is enough. So I try to get you to do as many darn things at the same time in that minute or two that I've got to work with. So if you're able to get down on the ground and you're able to sit on it, you know, add those arms and get those done at the same time for, you know, the second minute or something. And if all you're able to do is seat yourself with your feet on the machine and you're sitting in a stool, you know, get those elbows on, get those hands on, and just try experimenting with some of those to see if you can get a little, the biggest thing when you're first starting out and if you've had a spook is that fear and you're scared. So, you know, maybe sitting in a chair with just the feet exposed is a good way to, again, just get assimilated, get used to how it feels, how your machine moves. And I think you'll find those mid to higher speeds with a closer foot position not only are less jarring, but you're going to get a little bit more done in less time when you're dealing with those deficient areas. Once you start moving and feeling better, short term we talked about, you know, flexibility, Stability, there's a lot of you dealing with other things, even though you're dealing with lipedema and back issues. Some of you dealing with osteoporosis, osteopenia, spina bifida, scoliosis. So there's a lot of reasons that we have back and spine issues. I want to touch very briefly on the bone density piece. I'm realizing I don't think I've done something specific on this page to bone density, but the reason a lot of you are dealing with back issues and spinal issues is there's a digression in the bone density there. So add the fear of vibration shaking your bones and turning them to dust. No, nobody has ever died of osteoporosis. It's the fall, the break, and the recovery from those things. So the best thing that you can do if you're dealing with any kind of a bone condition is become more stable. Bone density, improving it. Yes, I've seen it all day long. But I'm done looking up studies and digging them out from something some guy did 20 years ago. That's enough to give me reason to progress. We know that weight bearing exercises improves our bones. So we're just doing those weight bearing exercises on something that's a little bit more effective and does offer a little bit more on gravity. So that's kind of how they improve bone density. But if you're not eating the foods that you need to be and you're not doing, some regular use, you know, don't expect miracles. So, I want to progress to more functional exercises, but if you're tired and in pain all the time, or you have a setback and hurt yourself, we're not going to get to those long-term goals. So things like strength, bone density, overall mobility, stamina, those type of things are more of a mid to a long-term goal. So please don't beat yourself up if you bought one of these things to lose weight or tone. Most of us are dealing with deficiencies. So let's repair that foundation, make things solid, and let's progress with some simple purpose and get the benefit. I don't care if you spent $50 or 10 grand on a machine, you spent money on it. You should be realizing some benefits. And I apologize to anyone out there that didn't know me before this page. If you've suffered an injury or you've used a machine wrong, heck, I've had people get hurt using it at a doctor's office. It doesn't mean that they have 14 years of trying to figure it out like I do. So the best lesson is start with those feet close. That's always a good lesson if you're a new person, if you're showing other people. The intensity is in the feet, and then bring those feet wider and reduce your time. So, I know the machine came and said 10 minutes 3 times a week and you're golden, but there's other reasons we're using this. And for things like lymph, flexibility, managing pain, I do recommend using it more often, but 3 to 5 minutes is more than adequate. And if you're using it more than a couple, 3 times a day, kind of everybody is right now. We're all at home a little bit more. Today was a very good day in the garden, and I'm currently renovating a camper, so I didn't get into my finest workout gear. I do realize I've got a collector's item Twin Tower t-shirt here. So I guess I'm representing New York today, even though I'm in Canada. So thank you for joining me. Hello, Miss Wilson. I will get this sliced and diced for those of you that missed us. And if you do have any intricate spine issues, you're dealing with surgery, you've got someone saying you're crazy, you shouldn't use it, drop a message, give me a comment on the video today. There's always one-offs that I maybe haven't covered, but generally speaking, in all my years of doing this, I've never had someone that can't benefit in some way. I just need to understand a little bit more about, your personal journey, where you're going. And, especially if you've been spooked, there's a different psychology when you've hurt yourself. The body doesn't forget those things. So thank you for joining me. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I will be reviewing a new product, a very big new product from Life Pro. I will probably do something like that on Monday or Tuesday, and I'll see you guys, of course, again for Workout Wednesday. Have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you.